7 Days of Reasons to Live. Day 1. Perception is not the same as reality. The problems you're facing seem enormous to you because you're facing them right now. But are they really so enormous? Ask yourself, has anyone else ever faced the problems I'm facing and survived? If the answer is yes, then you can survive those problems too. Even if the answer is no, someone has to be first, and it just might be you. Now, you might need help surviving some problems, but you absolutely can survive them. This is not saying your problems are trivial, but it is saying that they are almost certainly not as gigantic as they seem. Perhaps more concisely, the apparent magnitude of any problem is directly proportional to one's proximity to it, while its real magnitude only becomes apparent with distance. So, distance yourself from what seem like your own insurmountable problems by imagining what you'd say to someone else who was facing the same problems. Then, take your own advice, not your life. Day 2. Death is the only problem that isn't temporary. Nobody has a completely easy life. Sooner or later you get laid off, or your family business fails, the stock market crashes, or your retirement fund gets embezzled by your broker, your spouse dies, or the marriage ends, while the drug addiction or alcoholism never seems to end. The doctor gives you a terrifying diagnosis. Supposed friends turn their backs on you, or even torment you. Or those nude selfies from that drunken night in Vegas don't stay in Vegas, but go viral. And that's the short list of what a minefield life can be. It's very easy and perfectly natural to feel overwhelmed when even one of these things happen. When problems come, try to think of them as bad weather, and remember that even the most violent storms approach, do their damage, and move on. The important thing is that while the storms move on, the landscape remains. Death doesn't move on. Once you're dead, you'll be dead a very, very long time, maybe forever. Never swap temporary problems for the one problem that isn't. Day 3. You are not alone. It certainly seems like it sometimes, but you aren't. None of us are. The reason it seems that way has less to do with us and everything to do with the nature of the rest of the world. People are naturally aloof because of the many risks associated with mingling too freely with strangers, even though the truth of it is that maybe only one stranger out of 1,000 is looking for opportunities to do harm to others. Well, one dangerous stranger per 1,000 means there's 999 who at the very least don't wish harm on anyone, and out of those there are hundreds more who are nice and hope to meet and mingle with other nice people, and are willing to help when they can. So the odds are pretty good that if you feel alone and helpless, actual help is not very far away. Finding meaningful help may mean stretching beyond the circle of people you currently know, but it's not as if finding no help within your circle means that there is no help at all. Quite the contrary. I have sometimes heard young people say something like, if God loves us, why doesn't he put a stop to all the suffering and evil in the world? I've probably wondered this myself at some point. My response is that God does do something to put a stop to suffering and evil. He sends each of us into the world to stop these things and make the world better. So if suffering and evil persist, it's all on us, not him. We have literally been sent into the world for each other. Unless I'm the only one who thinks this way, whatever help you need, someone will be there to offer it if asked. However, this works both ways. Not only is there going to be someone to help you, you need to be in the world to help others too. You can't be if you've removed yourself from it. Perhaps if more people applied this line of thinking, to their own lives, the fact that we aren't alone would be obvious to everyone. Which is why I said feeling alone has less to do with us and more to do with the nature of the rest of the world. The bottom line, you may feel alone in the world, but you are absolutely not. Day 4. You are not unlovable. Do you keep getting dumped, neglected, or abused by all your significant others? That's just your own poor judgment in selecting a significant other. Are you getting bullied by people at school and have no friends to support you? Or are your parents treating you like a lifestyle accessory rather than their own flesh and blood? That's their poor judgment, not yours. There are over 7 billion people alive on this planet right this minute. You're kidding yourself if you think that out of 7 billion people, you are the one that nobody wants as a friend or wants to be involved with romantically. Each of us is gifted in some ways and limited in others, and you are not an exception to this. If you make an effort to discover and utilize your gifts while adjusting to your limitations, it becomes a lot easier to find others who will appreciate those gifts while overlooking those limitations. You may not have good friends, a fulfilling family life, or a meaningful romantic relationship at the moment, but you can, and you won't have to sift through all 7 billion of the rest of us to find them. By taking your own life, it's not others, but you yourself who keeps you from ever finding them. Don't deny yourself the good life you can still have. For crying out loud, even Hitler had a wife, and whatever personal glitches may be burdening you, you aren't Hitler. You'll be fine if you can be patient. Day 5. You are already more important than you realize, and absolutely nobody will be better off without you. This may sound crazy, but people you haven't even met can be affected by your suicide. Each human life is connected to all the others in the world through invisible threads of consequences. I say a kind word to a customer at work who's clearly having a bad day. The customer's mood improves enough that he doesn't scream at his teenager when he sees what a mess her room is, what she got in algebra, or when she brings her new boyfriend home with his eyeball piercings. Since she didn't get her feelings hurt by her father screaming at her, she didn't run away that day and end up on the streets. If it sounds like I'm taking credit for a kid staying off the streets, maybe I am, and rightly so. How many teens end up living on the streets because their parents screamed at them? How many accidentally overdose on drugs they'd never have started taking in the first place if some family incident like that hadn't happened? These things don't happen rarely or out of the blue, but all the time, and as a consequence of a chain of preceding events, all of which were completely avoidable. All it sometimes takes is a kind word to completely improve the destiny of a person we've never even met, but doing so requires that we be in the world to say the kind word. God forbid that the kind word isn't said because we aren't here to say it. And if your life is already this important to people who don't even know you, how much more so is it to the people who do? I once knew a teenage girl who'd walked in on her father the instant he shot himself in the head when she was 7 years old. She was clearly not better off without him. Bottom line, not only will you not be helping anybody by killing yourself, you will ruin many other lives than just your own. Day 6. Your story ends when your life does. Think about how deeply it affected you when you learned about the sudden death of your favorite musician, movie star, writer, or whatever. No more albums, no more movies, no more books from those people. You didn't even know them personally, but you felt their passing almost as if you did. Whatever you were sent into the world to do, and I believe each of us was sent to do something, you can't do it if you aren't here. Maybe you don't think you're as important as some celebrity. Well, you're that important to me, and I may not even know you personally. Look at the trouble I'm going through to make sure you stay in the world, and I don't know you. Besides, nobody has ever been born great, but only achieved greatness through a long series of adventures and misadventures. Leonardo da Vinci came into the world exactly the same way and in exactly the same condition in which you did. You say, well, I'm not Leonardo da Vinci. My response is, well, not yet. Your current situation is not your destiny. In a few hundred years, perhaps your name, not Da Vinci's, will be the one people drop in discussions like this one. Any minute now, you might have an idea out of the blue that improves the lives of billions. The only way to prove me wrong is to live your life to its fullest and then have nothing to show for it. I don't think it's possible, but we'll never find out if you cheat by committing suicide. Whatever you do, don't deliberately join the ranks of the musicians, actors, or writers who died before their time. Their stories are over. Yours isn't. Keep it that way. Day 7. Death is not oblivion, and regret lasts forever. You know that scene in A Christmas Carol in which Jacob Marley takes Scrooge to the window and shows him the sad souls of the everyday people who squandered their lives pursuing trivial things, and were now tormented by regret, desperate to make amends, but powerless to do so? When he wrote that scene, Charles Dickens may have been closer to the truth than he realized. People expect different things when they die. Some expect simply to disappear from the universe and look forward to feeling and thinking nothing. Others think that death means going to sleep in this world to wake up in heaven, and may kill themselves expecting to spend eternity in the arms of God, surrounded by departed loved ones. Both points of view are wrong. My hobby is what is popularly called ghost hunting. With the simplest of audio recorders, I enter reputedly haunted locations and ask questions in empty rooms. When I review the recordings later, some of my questions have received answers. Some answers are the softest whispers, while others sound so loud and clear I marvel that I didn't hear them with my own ears at the time. I've done these experiments many times, at many places, and what I've learned is that people who think they'll cease to exist once they die could not be more wrong. The people who think everyone goes straight to heaven when they die, regardless of how they lived and died, are just as wrong. You will be wide awake forever, and your situation on the other side absolutely depends on what you believed and how you lived while you were in the flesh. On my recordings, I have heard the spirits of the dead speak in voices that convey the serene, beautiful bliss of their existence. Nothing troubles them. On the same recordings, I have heard the voices of souls who are obviously in torment, racked with regret, literally begging for help. Help me is the thing the dead say more often than any other thing. Yes, for all practical purposes, heaven and hell are real, but they seem to be all around us, all the time. The mental picture I get from all of this is that Dickens was very close to being right. An eternity of regret may not be literally as bad as an eternity in flames, but an eternity in flames is just about the only thing I can imagine worse than an eternity of regret. I hear it all the time. Knowing this is a powerful motivator to make my own life count for something, and it should fill you with the same anxious dread it does me to ponder the consequences if we don't. Spare yourself this fate. Each day you're alive brings with it new opportunities to do so. Those opportunities end the instant your life does. Death comes for each of us in the fullness of time, and with it our ability to be involved and make a positive difference in the world. Don't look for death ahead of schedule, but stay as long as you can and make as positive a mark as you can on the world so that when it is your time, you will have no regrets. Are you still skeptical? You have two choices. The first choice, repeat my experiment. Get a digital audio recorder and perform the experiment for yourself in some reputedly haunted place. Second choice, wait, grow old and die. In the end, you'll have your answer. However, suicide is never a choice. If you think you have problems now, imagine being stuck on the other side, wide awake forever, and inescapably reminded that the last thing you did in the world was throw away every single opportunity you had to make it better. How horrible. In the whole known universe, we are only certain that life exists on Earth. For all we know, Earth is unique in this. This makes life itself an incalculably precious treasure. Like any other treasure, life comes with certain burdens, but these are always worth bearing, for it's in bearing them that we learn to appreciate that treasure all the more. So, be patient. Get help carrying life's burdens if you need it. Help others do the same. It's why you are here.
Enter the light switch, but it can't work down there.
Really?
Enter the light switch, but it can't work down there.
Really?
Enter the light switch, but it can't work down there.
Really?